Hello. Today, July 8th, 2026. This is recording 1017, 1017. It is entitled The Law of Non-Resistance. The Law of Non-Resistance. And let us keep in mind that as we've come upon the pearl of great price, as I call it, that consciousness being the sole overseer of all affairs pertaining to mankind, this is, I call the pearl, so I say the pearl of great price. As I've stated before, this channel is set up not to challenge the misbeliefs of the world, but to show or expose the darkness that hides within us, or to reveal to us the light that's already within every person, the ability for mankind to seek and search and to understand the power of this thing called consciousness. There is a mountain that we seek out to climb and master or become aligned with, however you want to describe it, but all with respect. We call that mountain God. And it has been left to the interpretation of every man, it seems, to interpret God how he so chooses. I can only present facts or truths or paths to be explored or contemplated, and the proof of these things will reveal themselves. Remember, the scripture tells us, as a man believeth in his heart, so is he. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and so forth and so on. But one thing we need to understand is that as we touch or as we align ourselves with truth, that truth does not become active, because that truth was always active. As we align ourselves with it, it's like traveling over an energy. It looks like we're traveling over a power source, and we touch it. As we touch that power source, it ignites the truth or light that's within us. And most people have interpreted that, oh, I was able to contact God, when in reality, we should be traveling in the direction or in alignment with that truth at all times. When we finally understand that consciousness is what drives our waking experience, and our waking experience always reflects what we believe, that is, as I said before, I call the pearl of great price. And we sell every thing that we thought was the way, not the practical utilization of the tools here in the three-dimensional realm, but the thoughts and avenues that we have come up to solve or resolve issues. We sell those that we might align ourselves with this truth. And as I said, if consciousness, if you find it out that it is the power source of all things, then you follow the consciousness. You lose your fear. Now, God is called in many things, all proper, in many ways, many names. But today we're going to talk about a law that's called the law of non-resistance. To align oneself with this creative power, and it must be mastered if one is to experience his deserved harmony, we, as I said, must align ourselves with it, because it's always traveling from heaven to earth. Watch yourself. Because when I said heaven, don't let your mind sight leave your mind and go off into this great expanse out there where we've been told that God is. Because if you recall, the Master tells us that the kingdom of heaven is within you. So that means that this glorious power is within man at all time, and it is generating its effects to earth, which is the waking experience. How far away is your waking experience from the kingdom of heaven? Right. The scriptures tell us closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. So it's in consciousness. Now, once we settle ourselves, decide that we are going to master this, and I don't mean take power from, I mean we are going to master, mean we're going to find a way to submit ourselves totally to this limitless power. Then we are on a what I call a progressive unfoldment. It can come in a blinding light, but for most people, it's progressive. Here a little, there a little, but when it comes, it's like a light that grabs your attention, and if you're careful to pay attention, you'll feel a lifting of a weight off of your consciousness or off of your practical affairs. So once we align ourselves or begin to do so, we also begin to understand that this power is absolute and it is limitless. I mean, and what is it revealing? It's revealing your true nature and what it means to truly believe. Truly believe, not just agree. And what is the depth of that belief? To recognize that God is the only power. Think about that. What would it be like to awaken in the morning and walk around with an understanding that no matter what you see, there is this presence that's saying, I am the only power. Be still and know that I am God. No more fighting, no more struggling or resisting. Now, to the human mind, see, non-resistance sounds like what? Weakness and defeat. But to the spiritual seer, it is the highest form of realization. The absolute recognition that God is one, God is all, and therefore there is nothing real to fight. Yes, the pictures, they continue to throw themselves at us, and that is what we have to learn to navigate, the pictures, because sometimes they grab hold of us and pull us into. But what if we were able to understand that God is all, and that particular situation has been taken care of, and it needs only our trust? When we look at a sickness, a lack, or a discard, and we attempt to fix it with spiritual powers, we have failed. Why? Because we are trying to rid ourselves of it. And in doing so with spiritual powers, we have given it an image and a form. And where did we originate it? That's right, in our consciousness. We have given it power. Most people retire at the end of the day exhausted. Now, I understand that, there's some physical labor out there that a lot of times causes us to be tired. But when people actually look at themselves at the close of the day, they're really exhausted because of the mental anguish they've had to go through. And they've got a short span of time at the end of the day to recover, like plugging in your phone to recharge it. But they know that this is really not going to accomplish because of the failures or the slight increases that they had yesterday, and they know it's not enough. But they've been trying and trying and trying. I know you've heard those words where it says, I lay before God for 2 and 3 hours. I lay with my face down. I prayed for days and days. Look at how exhausting that is when I say it to you right now, that once you understand that consciousness is the power. Wow. You mean, yeah. What I choose to believe as real becomes real in my waking experience. That's when I decide I'm going to become the gatekeeper. With spiritual surgery, what are we doing? Trying to reshape, trying to manage, and trim down the opinions of people who will never approve of our assignment. 2 things in that sentence. We engage people to try to tell them what we have found to be true, while they are so aligned with a story that they've been taught that they will fight you, not knowing that your assignment is to bring light to the world. And they would rather stay in the darkness of a story that they've learned, see, while they realize it is not bringing the desired results. But they won't even entertain what you're saying. So what do? You back off and you let them choose the path that they have chosen. We sweat over human judgments, trying to make them make sense, trying to make them fit our design, while spirit is screaming within us, stop. Stop. True kingdom mastery is not the power to force compliance. It is the grace of non-resistance that looks at an angry world, lays down the shears of human effort, and declares, let there be order and peace to this moment. Now that sounds like, man, I can't do that. But nonetheless, you can. Remember what Jesus said to the centurion? As you have believed, go. Who gets me to that place of believing? I do. How do I get myself there? By sitting in the contemplation of the truth and looking at the law of God, called by many names, and as I said, tonight is called the law of non-resistance, and I contemplate that law until that law speaks. It will speak. Yes, it will. You will hear a voice saying what? This is the way. Not like a signpost or a sign with an arrow on it pointing. It's a confirmation within your consciousness saying what? This is the way. Oh, I see. That's what we do. And the peace comes to the moment. The peace comes to what? My consciousness first. When it comes there, then my waking experience follows, reshapes itself. When we step out of the religious parade, we are presented with the opportunity to gain what is called the greater works. When we attain these, we just don't win verbal arguments with adversaries. We unlock a new level of spiritual sensitivity. What did I just say? It's no longer important to show this person that your understanding of the scriptures is more than theirs. That's no longer important. The only thing that's important is that you understand it, and you are not going to engage in arguments or persuasion to get this idea across to someone. You stand still and you let that person believe whatsoever they choose, and you believe what you know to be true, and allow it to work its so-called magic. That word in italics. When we have come to a realization that this is the path we're going to take, you'll be taken out of the public stadium and you'll be placed in a quiet, private room of memory. Not a literal room. What is that room? You'll find that you don't have very much conversation with the peoples of this world, because you're now speaking a foreign language to them, and you cannot engage in that language. That's what that private room is. You shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. In this memory, in this quiet room, we remember our legacy, and we forget the frictions of the past. The ultimate proof of our recall will be the ability to step away from situations where outcomes must be forced, and we execute our authority to introduce peace into the middle of a conflict. Matthew 7 and 20 says, "Wherefore by their fruits you shall know them." By their fruits you shall know them. See, it's the Father's desire that you bear much fruit. And for a long time, we try to duplicate the greater works that we thought Jesus, walking on water, raising the dead, sickness, disease, all of that. But the bottom line, it says you shall know them by their fruits. So what's the fruits? The fruits are known by these names: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance. And it says against them there is no law. These are the greater works. You mean every one of those? Yeah, every one of those are within us. And there is no law. And we are enabled to express each and every one of those laws as is necessary. And should it present itself or express itself as what is called a miracle, then so be it. But our harvest is to let love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, and temperance express themselves beyond the law of the waking experience. There is no law, none whatsoever, that can come against them. The seed which was planted within us has produced through the vine the fruits of the Spirit, the greater works, and by them we shall be known. The wisdom that comes from above, or the wisdom that comes from heaven, heaven within us. See, we must discipline ourselves to not allow our consciousness to float out every time you hear that word heaven and think that you're speaking of something that's outside of yourself. It says the wisdom that comes from heaven, comes from within, is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. All of that's going on in my stature. We stop trying to change people's minds and we begin to observe the harmony of the I am. We are listening and we are available. Our attention is ever focused on the supplier, on the source, on He who has created all things. We become a witness. We are listening, as I said, and available. Our attention is ever focused on the supplier that much fruit should be what? Born. We do not need to overhaul our thinking. We just need to bring every moment to a place that is presentable with unpackaged order and trust the Father to do the rest. Right here, I'm reminded of a situation a few years back to where I was totally unaware of the law of non-resistance. And yet someone who I thought was a little bit further up the ladder of spiritual attainment introduced me to that that law, but not calling it by name, just declared something to me, and I accepted it. And shortly thereof, I witnessed this law do what that person had said. You can imagine that when I saw it, my heart leaped within me. And I looked not at what it had done, but I looked at what I had received inside. And that's what I wanted. How can I do that? And that's what I'm saying. It was the law of non-resistance that moved on my behalf and revealed to me, wow, there is a God. One more time. There is a something out there that cares. And I'm going to give myself to that as opposed to walking around and looking like king of the forest. You see, the shears of human striving have been laid on the table for good. We are done with human judgment. The dead facilities exist no more. Our sensitivity to spirit is our strength. We're like a radio receiver that's constantly walking around doing what? Listening for the beacon, the signal, because we know that that's where our strength lies. Be still and know that I am God. The adversaries are negated by our presence, and the conflicts of our past dry up under the warmth of our resting. Yes, we labor to rest. We are commissioned. We stand flat-footed in the colorful office of grace. We do not earn it. We do not work for it. We accept it and labor to stand in it. Why? Because we've been commissioned to become witnesses. We look into the beautiful silence of the King, and we seal our absolute peace in the law of non-resistance. Wow. We yield ourselves to this law, and we give ourselves to this law because this law is a law that cannot be overtaken by anything. We no longer try to heal a broken world, and instead we look through the appearances to see the perfection of the kingdom. Know ye not that Christ is in you? Because God is all, there is no room for any opposition. When you resist nothing, you step into total freedom. This is the truth that must be anchored in consciousness. Matthew 5:39 says what? But I say unto you, that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. This is not just a person yielding to an evil force and just saying you can do what you will. Remember, you have anchored yourself in this law, this pearl of great price, and you just stand resilient. You just stand and allow the fruitage of the Spirit to reveal what is necessary at this particular time. And it is the Father's desire that you bear more fruit. And it is the Father's desire that you witness this. To turn the other cheek for most people, it's merely a what? A moral teaching about passivity. For the spiritual, this is your revelation. This is your liberation. Resist not evil is a cosmic law. The moment that you resist this evil, you give it your life force. You feed it with your attention. The ability to look at an evil appearance and say, you have no real existence. That is your power. But I'm afraid. Well, go ahead and be afraid. But do it anyway. Because if you don't do it, you're going to be more afraid. And you're going to remain afraid. But at least, as I said, when that person introduced that law to me, I at least accepted it, even though I didn't know what it was. But I knew it held within it the promise of more than what I was dealing with at the time. So what do? You get it? Speak it within yourself. Speak to the law. Let the law realize that you are attentive, that you are available, that you are listening. The ability to look at an evil appearance and say you have no real existence. By turning the other cheek, you refuse to engage it in conversation. You stand unmoved at the center of your own being. You stand confidently in the presence of the living Christ within. These truths right here, you must accept that they are within you. They are not something that you reach and call and tell them to come to you. They are there and you accept them whether your physical senses recognize it or not. With the heart, man believes. When negativity strikes, you turn the other cheek by resting in the absolute awareness that your spiritual identity is untouchable, unthreatened, and eternally whole. How do I do that? The way I just said. My identity is untouchable. It's unthreatenable, and it's eternally whole. Guess what? Your consciousness heard you. Your consciousness says, oh, this is the way we want to go? This is the way you want? Yes. And it takes you that route. Just be patient. Be patient. When we master the stillness in the face of human judgment and adversity, we discover that the battle is never ours to fight. 2 Corinthians 20:17. You shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of the Lord with you. That's exactly what we do. You speak to your inner self, and your inner self takes the command and begins to form that as your foundation within, and then, like a plant, spew the fruitage out in the waking experience. Imagine standing on a battlefield, surrounded by armies of lack, depression, or disease, and hearing a divine command. You shall not need to fight. Whew. Feel the relief? I said a divine command. I didn't say somebody just saying we're not going to fight. A divine command. Where can you hear the divine command? But within. You shall not need to fight. This is the ultimate call of non-resistance. The voice of your shift in consciousness. This is the ultimate call of non-resistance. Because you have known my name, I will be with him to prosper him in all his ways and to reveal to him my salvation. It's the voice of revelation declaring within that God is the only power. Therefore, that which confronts cannot withstand this revelation, this realization. You realize you have no opponent. The realization of God's presence becomes visible. And in case you missed one choice word that I said just a couple of sentences ago, it's the voice declaring. The voice, the shift in consciousness is the voice. The voice is the shift in consciousness that's revealing itself to you. You shall not have to fight. What is it saying? I got this. I got you. And you remain still and allow God to be God and allow your enemy to be destroyed. Our responsibility every time we face adversity is what? To consciously remember that there is a law within us awaiting only one thing: our recognition. Even if we are inexperienced, we can at least say, I have within me a power, a glory, an understanding. I have the word of God. I take a deep breath. I take a silent breath. And I say to myself, I am resting in the realization of the isness of God. Standing still, it is revealed to me that the kingdom of heaven is not something to be achieved, but the voice of revelation heard, confirming I am the law of non-resistance.